It's that time again. The annual conference of the American Society of Ag Consultants, otherwise known as ASAC, is going to be held in Fort Myers, Florida, this November 4th and 5th. Kurt Covington is one of 9 professionals who will address the conference. The other speakers who will cover a wide range of topics represent Florida Farm Bureau, Florida Citrus Commission, University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture, National Ag Law Center, Risk Mitigators and Advisors, Tyler Associates, as well as the lead economist for dairy at CoBank, and myself, Chrissy Wozniak from North American Ag. The day and a half of presentations will be followed by ag tours on Tuesday afternoon at Echo Farms, one of my favorite places here in Fort Myers. Attendees will experience farming at its most creative, with unique demonstrations, plants, and techniques being used to help farmers and urban gardeners in developing countries. A second tour at Echo will showcase simple technologies that can improve food, water, and shelter for millions of people. A third tour of a hydroponic grower is also being planned. For more information and to register, visit www.agconsultants.org. That's www.agconsultants.org. See you there. With 2,000 plus attendees, 25 plus robots, and 60 plus exhibitors, FIRA USA is the best place in the world for meeting agricultural and ag robotics leaders and seeing the latest technology demonstrations. This unique 3-day event is being held in Salinas, California, September 19th to the 21st, 2023. Check out their new website at FIRA-USA.com. That's FIRA, FIRA-USA.com. Get registered today. Spotlight. I'm Chrissy Wozniak. My guest today is originally from Dallas, Texas, and has degrees in animal science and agricultural science from Texas A&M University, and has done graduate work in reproductive physiology at Texas Tech University. She's managed a full-service thoroughbred breeding, training, sales prep, and racing farm in Fort Worth, prior to accepting her current position as coordinator of the Kentucky Equine Management Internship in 2001. The Kentucky Equine Management Internship program coordinates internships for college students with Central Kentucky horse farms to introduce students to the broad scope of the industry and the multitude of job opportunities within the industry. I know this show is a little bit different than our typical show, but I've owned horses most of my life, and I worked in the thoroughbred industry myself out of college. So what the Kentucky Equine Management Internship does is very dear to my heart. And despite the fact that a lot of our listeners will still call them hay burners, I'm okay with that. From Lexington, Kentucky, I'd like to welcome Leslie Janecka. Welcome, and thank you so much for your time today, Leslie.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to come on the show and talk a little bit about horses. My favorite topic.
Yeah. So first of all, tell me a bit about your background. It seems like you've done so much in the equine industry.
Oh gosh, I don't know about that, but I grew up in Dallas, Texas, so not from an ag background at all. Actually, went to college originally as a chemistry biology major, and after one semester of chemistry and biology, I changed to animal science.
Wow.
And that was probably because I didn't know that there were a lot of jobs in horses. I liked horses. I'd taken some riding lessons, but I would never have thought of horses as a career path until I got to the university and saw the horses and talked to the animal science professors, and they told me about, the jobs in farm management and other things. And so that's why I changed my major and actually bought my first horse in partnership, racehorse, in partnership with some friends as an undergraduate, which is unusual as well.
Yeah.
But that led to the job managing the farm. And then I went on to grad school. And like I said, I've been here in Kentucky now for almost 22 years with this program. And so I think the combination of having managed a farm and having a degree in education were kind of the forces that brought me here to what I'm doing today.
Right. Yeah. So tell me about the Kentucky Equine Management Internship.
So it was started the idea came in 1998, but our first group of interns started in 2000. And what it is, it's a 6-month program students can do as undergraduates, or they can do them after they graduate, kind of as a stepping stone into the industry. But it's a very intense 6-month hands-on experience. And we take primarily juniors and seniors. We've had more than 1,000 interns, believe it or not, do the internship program. And so they spend, like I said, 6 months living and working on one of the major thoroughbred breeding farms here in central Kentucky. And so on a six-day work week, they work hands-on with the horses. And then we sponsor weekly educational lectures or activities to give them a chance to meet people that are doing different jobs in the industry, whether that's veterinarians or nutritionists or farm managers or jockeys or trainers or people that do PR work at the racetracks and that sort of thing. It's a way to get them here, if they like horses, and show them that there's a lot more than just being a barn manager or a veterinarian, that there's a whole lot more out there. So we have 2 different internships that they can do. If they're interested in reproduction, obviously they would come to our spring session, which runs from January to June. And that's very intense with the mares, the foals, the stallions, the rebreeding of the mares, touching a little bit on the weaning because some of the foals will be actually ready to wean. And then we have a second internship that is what we consider fall, but it starts in June and goes through December. And that is very focused on sales and marketing. Most thoroughbreds are sold at public auction as yearlings. Mm-hmm. And so the foals from last year will be the yearlings of this year. And so there's a series of auctions starting in July. So it's July, August, September, October sale for yearlings. And then there's a November sale of brood mares. So the interns in the fall work getting those horses prepped for the sales. And then the fun for them is to go to the sales and see all their work pay off when they get auctioned off. And then some of the farms will actually start some of those horses under saddle towards the end of the year. And so some students with some good riding skills participate in that. And so the lecture topics we talk about in that fall session very focused on conformation and early training and international marketing and quarantining and transportation and those things that would go along with the sales and marketing side of our industry.
Amazing. That sounds so practical too, not just, theory and brushing horses. There's real content here. That's amazing.
We want to give them as much of a realistic experience as they can. And like I said, sometimes it's very helpful to get that transition because it's a little scary sometimes when you finish college to step right into a career. And especially most of our students don't come from a racing background or a thoroughbred background. They've come from, quarter horse or Arabians or something. And thoroughbreds it's a horse, but it's a different industry. Sure. It's production agriculture, and it's let's be honest, at the highest level in terms of the value of some of these horses. And so that can be kind of intimidating. So it's a way to kind of stepping stone, transition them into that career.
Yeah, amazing. And so who can apply? What are the admission requirements?
So we look at typically juniors or seniors. Most of them will come to us in the process of getting a degree in either equine science, animal science, ag business. Although we've had some that have different majors, that's not as important. What we really look for is how much hands-on experience they have, and they don't have to have a lot. Like I said, most of them have never been around thoroughbreds at all. So as long as they have the basic ability to catch a horse, put a halter on a horse, lead a horse, groom a horse. We look at the grades as well, but we're really focused on getting some solid letters of recommendation because we are going to turn them on to horses that are extremely valuable. And we just have to make sure that they're somebody that's dependable, reliable, that they understand that these horses are somebody's investment. And so we can't cut any corners or take chances. And they, understand that the things they're going to be asked to do are not anything that's unusual, but it could be a little different than maybe what they've done with their horses back home. But we have the luxury, I would say, is that we cooperate with about 50 of the top thoroughbred farms here in central Kentucky for this internship. That's who sponsors the program. And so if I have a student that is very dedicated and focused, but maybe doesn't have a ton of experience, I can put them in one of our smaller farms that maybe is only going to pull out 10 or 15 mares versus somebody who maybe has 10 or 12 years of riding experience or whatever can go on one of the biggest farms. And so students at different levels of horse handling experience can kind of progress at their own speed, their own level, and still have a great experience and still learn a lot, but it's not as intimidating. Like they don't all have to have, 20 years of riding experience or anything like that. So I think we're unique in that sense that every student can adapt to their own level and still grow and develop and learn.
Yeah. And it's interesting that people who don't have a lot of experience do come into these fields, especially working with animals. Do they come in understanding the dangerous part of, or do you have to really focus on that at the beginning?
Well, I think that's just a thing that's happening in agriculture in general.
Mm-hmm.
Students come into agriculture and a lot of them don't grow up on a farm or a ranch. And so we have a lot more urban uh, young people that come into animal science programs or even into agriculture programs. So I'm hoping that, the universities do a good job of sort of, recommending and having them exposed on campus, at least maybe not to a dangerous horse, but to a horse that they get some basic practice before they come to us. So they should know the dangers. And, knock on wood, most of the horses that we work with have been handled from day one. So there's always going to be a danger, but they're not going to be feral wild. We're not going to do any kind of roping and flanking down and bucking horses and that type of thing. So most of the horses are pretty gentle. And the farms understand they don't want anybody to get hurt. They don't want the horses to get hurt. So I tell the interns, no matter how much experience you have or you think you have, never be discouraged or have your feelings hurt if the first day you handle the old gray mare. Do the best job you can with the old gray mare, and tomorrow you get the old bay mare and maybe the old brown mare, and then they'll work you up into handling, more difficult horses as the internship goes on.
The chestnut mare.
We'll work our way up, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
But that's good because, like I said, I think there's a lot of young people that like horses, but maybe have been intimidated in the past with the thought that maybe they could be a part of the industry. And this gives them the chance to see that there is a space for them, that they can get a foot in the door and then figure out if a hands-on job is for them. And if it's not, then we'll guide them in some other pathway, because there's certainly other options that are not necessarily hands-on, but are still involved in the equine industry, the horse industry. You can still be involved and not necessarily be hands-on if that doesn't work for you.
Right. Yeah. And so what's the cost of the program?
So right now we do ask that the students pay a tuition of $2,500, and that's to keep them
very reasonable,
vested into the industry.
Mm-hmm.
But for that, they're going to get a placement on a farm. And as long as they don't have a pet or significant other, the farm will provide a housing in the form of a private bedroom to them. And then they pay an hourly wage. And actually, we've just increased that. So the students that are coming in this fall will be making about $14.26 an hour.
Oh, wow.
So working 48 hours a week, they're going to make, $650 a week.
Mm-hmm.
The fall internship is 24 weeks. The spring internship is 22 weeks. So, $15,000 to $17,000 gross. So you're going to get paid back what you put into it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, right now, we can place pretty much 100% of the interns after the internship experience into positions. So I think it's an investment in their future, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And are there scholarships available?
We're working on that. We do have one small scholarship now, but that's one focus I'm really trying to work on now, is to try to get some more funding and scholarship money, because there are some students that $2,500 is kind of a big ask up front, even if they know they're going to get it back in the end. So we're looking at some options to get some scholarships.
Yeah. And if our listeners are interested in providing scholarships, where should they go to contact you?
Our website is KEMI.org, KEMI.org. And there's an email system through there, but they can email info@KEMI.org, or me, which would just be LeslieJ@KEMI.org.
Perfect.
So, but I would love it in my perfect world that every state we would have a scholarship from every state, in a sense that, Texas Thoroughbred breeders or California Thoroughbred breeders would sponsor a student from their own state to come, because, I think it's a unique experience and opportunity. Yeah,
definitely. And what are some of the characteristics of a successful intern? What do you like to see coming in?
Well, I think, like I said, the desire is the biggest thing. They have to really want to do this. Knowing that, agriculture in general, but horses specifically, it's a lifestyle. It's not a job. It is a lifestyle. Horses, they don't care if it's your birthday or Christmas. They want to be fed, want their rooms to be clean. They don't really care. So having the desire and the interest in it is obviously the big plus. But students really that have, again, some horse experience, they don't have to be riders. We're not looking for riders necessarily. Just having some basic experience with horses at a minimum, but certainly livestock, large livestock. Students that come from dairy backgrounds or cattle ranches work very well in this program too, because they do understand that the animals have to be fed every day, and you might get called in the middle of the night for an emergency or foaling or whatever. Usually students that have had some kind of a job, doesn't necessarily have to be ag related or horse related. And I tell students all the time don't care if you've worked at McDonald's or Starbucks or whatever, the ability to work with other people, because sometimes it's not the animals that are the issue, it's people. Working with people, sometimes there's conflict. So knowing that you can work with your peer group and you're relatable to clients or customers and that sort of thing goes a long way as well. So just being dependable, reliable, and the desire to do it.
Yeah, that's great. And how do you select the host farms?
Well, they have to partner with us, obviously. We don't ask for them to make any financial input necessarily into the program. They do support us through, grants and gifts, et cetera. But we select farms that see these interns not as labor. We're not an employment agency. We're not looking to fill the gap of labor on the farms.
Okay.
What we're looking for are farms that understand that these are students that are wanting to learn and that they are the future farm managers, veterinarians, feed company reps, pharmaceutical reps. And we've got to have farms that understand that and are willing to work with them and teach them and kind of be able to answer questions and not where the student's not going to feel intimidated. So we've got a really great group of farms that the farm managers understand that and they realize that. And so the farms have to agree to provide the housing and understand that they're learning. So they have to be patient, but have somebody on the farm that is a go-to person that will answer any question and, really kind of guide them. And again, in a non-intimidating way, to be there as a mentor for them on the farm. And then we also have a really big group of alumni that live and work here in jobs in Lexington. And so they have an alumni association. So we pair some of the alumni up with the interns too. And that's just another person that they can go to, ask questions, find out what to get their haircut or their flat tire fixed, or, just be someone to talk to as well. Because we want it to be supportive, because in the long term, we're looking at them as the future of our industry and people to get into our sport.
Wow. And then as a young person, what are the benefits of doing an internship versus just hopping right into the workforce? What are some of those tangible benefits?
I think, a lot of people have an idea of what a job is going to be, but until you really step into it, you might not really have a clear-cut idea. Yeah. And by being an internship, it's a way to sort of verify that this is the path you're supposed to be on, if that makes sense. You can have your idea in the back of your mind what an equine veterinarian does. But if you haven't been on a farm and seen the veterinarians work or been in their shoes, you might not know. Or you can think, well, farm managers, not until you get on a farm and see what they really do you really know what they do. So I think the benefit of that is just being able to experience the lifestyle, the job, the career path, and a practice basis, if that makes sense. You can try it out before, you can step in. And that, helps just answers a lot of questions about what the career path is, what the job is about in a limited way. So there's no commitment. There's no expectation at the end of the internship that you have to stay there. So if it's not for you, that's okay. You can do it for 6 months. Anybody can do that for 6 months. And if it's not for you, you can walk away and it's okay. Nobody's mad and nobody's upset about that.
Right.
And the vast majority decide to stay.
Yeah.
They decide to stay. It's for them. If you're a horse person, you're a horse person.
That's it.
Star.
Yeah. And for placements afterwards, is it mostly in Kentucky or are they farms across the states?
I get calls literally every day from somebody who wants to hire one of our graduates because they know that they've come through this program, that they're solid with their horse skills, they understand the business, and they're very employable. Right. I just got a call from someone in New Zealand, actually.
Oh, wow.
Do you have anybody that wants to come down here? So the placement rate is very high, but I think there are jobs across the country, but the vast majority, especially in the production side, are going to be here in Lexington. Yeah. And I think when students from wherever they come from, and we've had students from all 50 states and 21 foreign countries that have come for the internship, the vast majority will probably choose to stay in Kentucky because this is the horse capital of the world. And there's nowhere there's such a high concentration of farms and farm people and just the lifestyle that is the horse business. It's right here. And so, the climate's all right. It's beautiful here. And, it's just right here. And so I think a lot of them would just choose to stay here rather than going back somewhere else. But we're not opposed to that. If somebody wants to find a job in California or in Texas or New York or whatever, that's fine. But I think for the most part, they choose to stay here.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a beautiful part of the country. And every time I can, I visit the horse park. I just love walking through that.
That's where my office is. I can look right outside the door and
No
look at the horses
way.
today if I wanted to.
I love it. I think I have a shirt or a hoodie from every single visit. Love it. That's really cool. And why is it that high school counselors never talk about jobs in farming, in agriculture, or the equine industry? Even just in agriculture and food production, that's 20% of the workforce, a little bit over that. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Maybe it's because if they haven't grown up in that industry, they just wouldn't know to, even in rural high schools, I don't know that the career counselors necessarily would have would have grown up in that area. Mm-hmm. And I think there's such a push from, I see it can't even say that word, generationally, if that makes sense, that if you grew up on a farm, sometimes you don't want to stay on the farm. You want to get away from that because you've seen how hard your parents work or whatever. And so I kind of see sometimes it's the second generation, the grandparents that want to come back, the grandkids that want to come back into that. But I think part of that is just education, not understanding how many jobs are out there. Yeah. Like I said, a lot of students think you have to be in the horse business, you have to be a veterinarian or manage a boarding operation. Mm-hmm. They just don't see that. So it's about education. So part of my job, what I do, probably 50% of what I do is I go out, I travel around the country and I speak at colleges and universities, and I'm trying to get more into going to some of the FFA and 4-H meetings or whatever, just to talk about not necessarily just my internship. Obviously, I want to lead them that way, but just to talk about the different options and opportunities in our industry and what's available and what's out there. And I think it's just education. It's just educating people about what's out there and what's available.
Yeah, that's really smart. And what advice do you have for high school and college students if they're already thinking about a career in the thoroughbred industry or in the equine industry? What kind of things should they be doing or thinking of as they proceed?
There's lots of websites out there and podcasts and things that people talk about what we're doing. Yeah. I wouldn't say luckily enough, that's not the right word, but COVID wasn't that detrimental to the horse racing industry. It was probably, I hate to say a bonus, and I don't mean it that way, but a lot of other sports were not taking place during COVID, and horse racing was allowed to continue. So we actually started getting a little more television coverage than we have had in the past.
Oh, right.
So we saw an increase in viewership. We saw an increase in wagering dollars at the track, and we saw an increase in interest in and more people that want to buy into our industry and partnerships and that sort of thing, which was really unusual. But I think more people were aware of it because they saw it.
Yeah.
And so I think just educating yourself on what's out there and what's available. There's plenty of opportunities and outlets out there to see agriculture. I mean, if you have an interest, try it out. If you feel like you haven't had any horse experience, take a riding lesson somewhere, or there's a lot of therapeutic riding programs out there where they help people with disabilities or veterans that you could volunteer at, and it's just be around a horse to see if you even like being around horses. There are opportunities to start to get your foot in the door, and then that will lead to what I find in the horse business is people that are in the horse business, we love to talk about horses. We love to talk about our jobs. We love to talk about what we're doing. Yeah. You just have to meet one person and start up a conversation, and that leads to someone else. And, hey, this is an idea, and here's somebody you should meet, or here's somebody you should talk to. And I don't know.
Yeah, that's great advice. And one of the big issues facing agriculture, any kind of animal agriculture, the equine industry, and I think especially lately the thoroughbred industry, is animal activism. They've been working really hard against the thoroughbred industry over I'd say at least the last decade. How do you prepare students for engagements with activists?
I think is you try not to lose your temper, lose your cool. Yeah. You have to just go in and be prepared that in any agriculture, any animal science, any horse endeavor, there's always going to be distractors. And that's, they don't know. Anybody who would say that, for instance, the thoroughbred industry is cruel, they have never been on one of these farms and seen how these horses are treated and how they're cared for.
Oh, yeah. They have better food and health care than
they
most
live nicer than I do.
Right?
There's I don't have stained glass windows in my apartment. It's just education, but being prepared with the answer, whatever they're going to say is wrong, that you can counter that with what is right. People say we don't care about the track surfaces. there's whole programs out there where we're looking at track surfaces and track safety. There's a whole database, how we track horse injuries and jockey injuries. There's all this out there, but it's just a matter of educating people. So knowing what you're up against, being prepared for when somebody confronts you, that you have a response to that and then say, well, that's not correct. And I can show you where it's not correct. And here's where you can get information about this or whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I agree. Good ways, and always stay prepared. And everybody's got a camera too,
and don't
so
overreact. Once you start bowing up and trying to fight with them, you're never going to get anywhere. And it makes you look bad because it makes you show it like you're aggressive when actually they're the one that's the aggressor.
Yeah, for sure. So one last question for you.
Sure.
Why do you serve the industry in this way? What's your greatest passion in all of it?
I love horses.
Yeah.
I always say I would have been student number one had this been available when I was younger. Like I said, as a horse person, we do it for the love of the horses. You wouldn't be in this business if you didn't. And I think for me, I know that there were so many people that helped me get to where I am just by offering jobs and giving me advice, that I love doing that. And my joy is to see my students progress from when they come in and they're a little quiet and shy. And then at the end, they know the terminology, they know the words, they're presentable. And I just get so much joy out of seeing them grow and develop and finding jobs. And we have so many of our graduates now that are doing amazing things out there. They're managing farms, that are owners themselves of racehorses, that train horses. We've got some that are jockeys. We have some that work for some. Just seeing them succeed is a joy to me, if that makes sense, helping them find their career path and finding something they enjoy doing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. That's awesome. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Sure.
Great conversation, great information. And let's hope some young kids listen to this and give you a call. What was the website again?
It's KEMI.org. So KEMI.org. And I do have, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I'm not a big social media. I have some help with that, which is, but we are on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and have our website as well. So, but on the website, you can find the links to the Twitter and Instagram and Facebook as well. But it's just KEMI.org.
Perfect. Well, thank you again.
You're welcome.
Good luck in the future and with your students. And thanks to all who are watching or listening. If you want to learn more, we'll provide all the links in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe to North American Ag Spotlight on YouTube, Rumble, or Telegram channels. And the podcast is available on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Amazon, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you liked the episode, I'd love it if you shared it. And have a great day.
Thanks.
Our newest podcast by North American Ag is called What Color is Your Tractor? The stories behind the ag brands you love and the ag brands you love to hate. Hosted by me, Chrissy Wozniak. We take a deep dive into the companies that have built modern agriculture. Subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. Go to whatcolorisyourtractor.com. Available on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts.